Breaking news, the massive air and sea search underway for a jetliner that vanished over the South China Sea. 239 people are on board, including 3 Americans.
The Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777 disappeared this morning during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. At least 1 oil slick has been spotted off Vietnam and may be from the missing plane. Seth Doan is in our Beijing bureau this morning. Seth, good morning.
Good morning. That plane was supposed to land here in Beijing at 6:30 in the morning, early Saturday morning. Now it's well more than 14 hours later, and very little additional information is known. For hours, family members sat at the airport looking at those information boards that simply said the flight was delayed. Later, they were moved to a local hotel, but given very little additional information. 2/3 of the passengers on board that aircraft are Chinese, and in a phone call between the Malaysian Prime Minister and the Premier here in China, the Prime Minister of Malaysia offered his apologies, while China's Premier urged him to move that search forward. Now, as you mentioned, Vanita, 1, possibly 2 large oil slicks have been spotted by Vietnamese search planes that could be, I repeat, could be from that aircraft. That is still under investigation. The last time that aircraft was heard from, a Boeing 777-200ER, was over the South China Sea, somewhere between the coast of Malaysia and the southernmost tip of Vietnam. As you can see, it is now night. Dark has fallen here, and that is only complicating the search. Vanita, Anthony.
Seth Doan in Beijing this morning. Thank you.
Authorities in Malaysia now say a missing passenger jet may have turned back before disappearing. Search aircraft and vessels have spent almost 2 days hunting for any signs of flight MH370. The plane vanished about an hour after leaving Kuala Lumpur for Beijing. 239 people were on board. The search has been focused on the waters between Malaysia and Vietnam, but radar indicates that the flight may have turned around, even though the pilot never notified air traffic control. Now Thailand is searching closer to its shores. Meanwhile, Interpol says it is concerned after discovering that 2 passengers were traveling on stolen passports. Their tickets had been bought through South China Airways, which has a code share with Malaysia Airlines. Vietnamese searchers are looking at items spotted in the Gulf of Thailand, and tests are being run to see if oil found in the sea could be from the plane. Authorities maintain it is still too early to rule anything out.
I said from the beginning that we are looking at all possibilities. Just because not yet does not mean that we are saying that it is a terrorist act, but we are not discounting anything when it comes to lives of innocent people.
It's been an agonizing week for the families of the passengers and crew. They accuse Malaysian authorities of not providing enough information. Robin Stickley has that story for us.
Family members of the 239 loved ones on board the missing Malaysia Airlines flight gather in this Beijing hotel's conference room. Each new day brings a new theory, but there are no answers. In fact, there aren't even questions.
Under international law, we are not permitted to respond to questions at this time.
More than a week on, patience has worn out. Frustrated and furious, the anger came to a boiling point at a meeting last week. Family members picked up water bottles and pelted airline officials. The company is providing $5,000 for expenses to relatives. It's an offer many are turning down.
We want to take care of you, okay? That's our first priority. Please let us take care of you.
Not so, according to this man. He says the airline is treating this tragedy like a business transaction. Many Malaysians are drawing their own conclusions now. On a condolence board at Kuala Lumpur's airport, one note reads, "Please catch the hijacker." What's been lost in the mystery of this disappearance are the victims themselves. Hailing from a dozen nations, an age range of 2 to 76, 5 of them on board under the age of 5. 2 Canadians, parents who were on vacation away from their young children. Each one with loved ones agonizing over their unknown fate. While the search for the missing 777 goes on, so too do the prayers. At a gathering of Buddhist monks, tourists and locals came to light a candle and ask for a miracle for people they've never met. This man's written request is on the hearts of so many. It reads, "Bring them all home safely." Robin Stickley, Global News, Washington.
President Obama making his first public comments tonight about the search for missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
We have put every resource that we have available at the disposal of the search process. There's been close cooperation with the Malaysian government, and so not just NTSB, but FBI, anybody who typically deals with anything related to our aviation system is available. And so, our thoughts and prayers were with the families, but I want them to be assured that we consider this a top priority, and we're going to keep on working.
Putting on your intelligence hat here, what right now are U.S. intelligence agencies looking for, doing, fearful of?
Well, first of all, it is quite surprising this has gone on that long. Secondly, I'd say it's also a surprise that we haven't really gotten any information from any other country, and I think presumably the plane flew over a number of them. And I think that they, like the Malaysians themselves, who are after all in charge of the investigation, are pretty much a tabula rasa. They're really starting from the beginning. I don't think anything definitive out there, and I think everything we've heard so far is more of a theory and a hypothesis, and there's nothing yet that's been concrete enough to fill in behind those initial suspicions.
You can't go.
Based on their new analysis, Inmarsat and the AAIB have concluded that MH370 flew along the southern corridor and that its last position was in the middle of the Indian Ocean, west of Perth. This is a remote location, far from any possible landing sites. It is therefore with deep sadness and regret that I must inform you that according to this new data, flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
The last sliver of hope vanished in an instant. Malaysia's Prime Minister announced today that Flight 370 went down in the Indian Ocean and all 239 people on board are dead. The conclusion is based on new analysis of satellite data that tracked the Boeing 777 after it veered off course on a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing 17 days ago. The wreckage has not been located. The search is now focused west of Australia. The United States tonight is flying a team there with underwater surveillance gear. We have a team of correspondents on the story, and we'll go first to Seth Doan in Kuala Lumpur. Seth?
Jukun, Zahari bin Ahmad Shah, Muhammad Khairul Amri Salamat, Muktesh Mukherjee and Xiao Mobai, Zamani Razam Muhammad and Norli Ahmar Hamid, Hadrian Watralos and Yan Zhao, Liu Rusheng and Bao Yunhua, Puria Nur Mohammadi. These are just a fraction of the names of the 239 passengers and crew on board from 14 nations. For hundreds of family and friends, it's been an agonizing wait. Wife and mother Chandrika Sharma of India is the executive secretary of the International Collective in Support of Fish Workers. She was on her way to a conference in Mongolia. Her husband wrote a note to friends and family, thanking them for their support. It says, "I remain focused on what we have at hand by way of information and stay with the knowledge that Chandrika is strong and courageous. Her goodness must count for something somewhere." Phil Wood, a 51-year-old IBM executive, was one of 3 Americans on board.
My bag is packed and ready to go. It has been since Saturday morning.
Ready to go where?
Wherever he is.
His partner, Sarah Beijing, is on a desperate search to find the man she calls her soulmate. Myra Elizabeth Nari, daughter of Chief Steward Andrew Nari from Malaysia, has taken to Twitter to post a series of heart-wrenching messages. "Daddy, Liverpool is winning the game. Come home so you can watch the game. You never miss it. This would be your first time." New Zealander Paul Weeks left his wedding ring and watch at home when he took a mining job in Mongolia. He asked his wife Danica to pass them on to his 2 sons should anything happen. His brother describes him as his best friend.
People love Paul, and in general he's just a wonderful man, and we're all hoping that he comes back.
Zahari Ahmad Shah was the airline captain piloting the plane. Despite being under scrutiny in the investigation, many have stepped forward to vouch for his credibility.
If something had happened to this flight, I would think, and in fact I would believe, that he would have made sure of the safety and welfare of everyone else before he even thinks about himself. That's the kind of person that he is.
From artists to engineers, grandparents to a toddler, the passengers of Flight 370 are more than just numbers. Atika Schubert, CNN, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Sarah joins me now from Beijing. Sarah, obviously there's been these reports that they picked up pings. They have been unable to reconfirm or re-verify those pings they picked up this weekend. Do you think this could be the plane?
It could be. I mean, we still don't know anything that we didn't know a month ago, but I think the general perception amongst the families is that the timing of these pings is awfully coincidental with the batteries wearing out. So all of us pretty well agree that until there's the bulk of the plane and the bulk of the bodies discovered and a black box intact, we won't believe that it's final evidence.
Now, Sarah, you and I have spoken a few times, and last week you said that you believe the plane is still intact. That was the specific word you used, which obviously could mean a lot of things. But what leads you to believe that, and do you still believe that?
I still believe it because there isn't any evidence to the contrary. And actually, most of the circumstantial evidence, I believe, points towards an abduction of this plane. I don't know why, and I don't know by who, but I'm convinced that that plane was taken by somebody.
And when we talk about that scenario, I mean, as of now, as you know, investigators, at least what they've told us and what they've told the families, they haven't been able to clear the captain, the co-pilot, or the flight crew. They have cleared all the passengers from any kind of suspicion. Do you think that when you talk about the plane being abducted and taken, that someone on board, a pilot, crew member, was responsible?
I don't think the authorities have given us much confidence in their investigative skills so far, so I wouldn't consider all the passengers cleared, first of all, and I don't necessarily think that anybody from the crew was involved. They could be. We just don't know. It could be that every single person on that plane is an innocent victim in this, and it was a military action of some country instead. We honestly just don't know anything.
Well, it's a fair point. I mean, and Sarah, you know, you've been talking about sort of your nightmares at night about what might have happened to Philip, the questions that you have. I mean, how are you dealing with the possibility that this plane may not be found, that there may not be an answer?
Well, that's the scariest option of all, because I think if you're sure someone has died, you can grieve properly and you can move on. But I'm not willing to move on. I want to fight to find him in whatever form that ends up being. And I think most of the families feel the same way. So we really need to push to resolution from an emotional health perspective. But beyond that, as a world, we have to push for resolution. I mean, this is a really scary thing that happened. A plane, a giant plane filled with people was just taken. That could happen again if it's happened once.
Desperate family members have been calling the missing passengers' cell phones, and some report those cell phones have been ringing. Does that mean the plane landed somewhere safely, possibly? Experts say no way, but some relatives are clinging to hope tonight. Straight out to Philip Holloway. Thanks for joining us. You're a flight instructor. You're familiar with air traffic control. This is what nobody can understand. How can this plane stop sending tracking signals and proceed to turn around and go in the opposite direction hundreds of miles off course without somebody from air traffic control saying before it disappeared, hey, buddy, you're going in the wrong direction?
Well, right, this is the ultimate mystery wrapped inside an enigma. And quite frankly, we're relying upon the Malaysian Air Force and what they say happened. They say that they got this target of this aircraft changing course, but they don't have any other electronic communication coming from the aircraft. They don't have any other transponders. They don't have their ACARS signal coming from it. So I tend to believe that that information about the course reversal is questionable. I think we just have to see a little bit more hard proof that what they say they saw on the radar was actually this particular aircraft. I'm not convinced that it was. However, if it was, the only thing that makes sense, and this doesn't make entirely good sense to me, but what does make the closest sense is that there was some partial structural failure that could have led to a decompression of the aircraft. You know, there's a huge difference of pressure between the outside of the cabin and the inside of the cabin. And we look back to the Payne Stewart flight where his aircraft here in the United States lost its pressurization. And within a matter of seconds, people go ahead and they pass out.
Yeah, it's 60.
Conspiracy theorists believe they know what happened, even where the missing plane is. One of the more outlandish ideas, aliens stole Flight 370 and abducted everyone on board.
The notion that a particular tragedy or terrible thing that's happened is attributable to aliens, that seems preposterous.
Cass Sunstein wrote a book about why conspiracy theories persist. He says people are drawn to mystery and suspicion, especially when feelings of fear, anger, and grief are involved, as is the case with the Malaysian airliner. On social media, conspiracy theories about the missing plane are still going viral. This tweet pretty much covers it, from time travel to an invisible cloak for the airplane. Others wonder, was the plane hijacked to Afghanistan? Or did it land on the U.S. military base known as Diego Garcia? The island in the Indian Ocean has restricted security clearance, but that's only amped up conspiracy theorists. So much so, the idea even found its way into the White House briefing room.
Some news reports saying that the missing flight could have landed in the U.S. military base, Diego Garcia, in the center of Indian Ocean. Do you rule in that or rule out that?
I'll rule that one out.
Another conspiracy?
Biggest conspiracy ever in the history of the world. This video right here, we didn't know. All we needed was this video. This was all we needed. And this goes to show that we've been super correct about the situation, about how these videos emerged. The video is a leak. This video leaked on the internet, and the person who leaked it knew we had absolute proof because you could see the coordinates down here. This is MH370. This is a covert operation. You are watching a black operation. This is a black operation being conducted by the CIA, probably in conjunction with Lockheed Martin. We're going to talk about that later, but this is a black project operation being using Air Force assets. These videos now can be used as a litmus test. You can use the videos as a litmus test to tell who's a useful idiot, who's actually awake and aware, and who is paid disinformation. Holy shit, the thermal video. Jeez. The people that leaked this video, or the people that let this video get leaked, that did this operation, mass murder, absolutely horrific. This camera We're like 99% sure this camera is a Litnin G4 with thermal capabilities, or color thermal capabilities. The color was only publicly standard in 2021. So if I'm right, if this is actually one of these Litnin pods, they had access to it 7 years before the Air Force, it became Air Force standard. This MQ-9 with the Litnin pod on the Station 5 hardpoint, watching this happen, they had a super advanced version of that camera that was not going to be public for years later. So we're looking at an advanced version of this super spy surveillance capability, Gorgon State, that was probably sequestered. And then also another sequestered camera that's a Litnin G4 with color thermal. Everybody keeps saying, why is it colored? All the videos I see are FLIR. All the FLIR are black and white. Yeah. And this was 2014. That video was 2014. They had super advanced technology. And we haven't even talked about the orbs yet. Whoever was recording that owns and controls the orbs. They own and control the orbs. You care about this UFO phenomenon? You care about how they're stealing money to build anti-gravity technology? That's what those orbs are. That's 100% true. The Joint Forces was watching this video. They know that's their orbs. The whole thing is an operation. The whole thing is an operation. That right there is proof. Whoever built those orbs is the one you guys are looking for. I'm just going to throw it out there. It's probably Lockheed Martin. It's probably Lockheed Martin that has those orbs. Those are probably not Air Force orbs spinning around. They're Lockheed Martin orbs, and they're being used in special operations, and the Joint Forces Tactical Intelligence Network, the Joint Forces knows it. They know it. And these orbs are basically a dense plasma, meaning they can condense charge together in a way that turns them into a super powerful magnet. They have a form of endothermic propulsion that they're able to ionize the air and basically turn it into energy that they use. They're a fusion reactor. They're a miniature fusion reactor, portable one. When they converge, they produce an electromagnetic flux that's so powerful, it pushes away all the zero-point energy. The zero-point energy gets pushed away for a brief moment, but long enough, and that plane teleports. I mean, what were your impressions when you saw specifically this video here for the first time?
Oh man, when I saw those orbs, I saw this thing, this one orb just start exactly what it's doing now. Just start to go around this thing. And all of a sudden it started join another one and then another one. And I said, oh my God, they're forming a bubble of non-ionizing radiation around this thing. There's no way. There's no way what's about to happen. I anticipated. Do you understand? I knew before that black hole happened. Let's call it a black hole.
You knew that was going to happen beforehand? Just
I knew that would happen. I knew that would happen. That's why
really?
When I said, this is it. This is the Pais effect. I of course, it's, hubris. That's the only thing I got going for me, brother. That's not one thing I'm losing anytime soon. So
have you ever seen videos like this? Military videos like this before? Anything even similar or remotely similar to this?
Never ever. And even if I have, because
you wouldn't be able to talk about
at
it?
one point I would not be able to discuss because that would give away methods.
Why do you think they were converging like that at the end?
They're actually focusing as much non-ionizing radiation around this craft in order to condition the local vacuum around the craft, the aircraft, in order to form this wormhole opening for one of the back. What's a wormhole? It's really a black hole connected to white hole. Whatever has an entrance will most likely have an exit. I do not believe in space-time singularities. I'm afraid Penrose was 100% wrong from this point of view. It never goes to zero. There's a quantum bounce. Ashtekar is correct. There's an Ashtekar bounce at the Planck scale. Again, the whole idea of why I thought that they were getting close and started to oscillate around this thing is to basically create that resonance effect that would build the field to the levels it would need to break locally the Schwinger limit.
The plasma orbs are an air-breathing magneto-hydrodynamic engine. It's a scramjet engine design. The scramjet engine design, basically what they are is they're an engine, Swiss Army knife engine, like this iPod, and they can produce a plasma around them. They produce a plasma around them by shooting an X-ray laser, a free electron laser. Free electron laser can basically just destroy the molecules in the atmosphere and use it and suck it in. And they fly around. And here's the craziest shit. Are you ready? Pay close attention to what I'm about to say. When they're flying around, they produce energy while they're flying around. Like, the fact that they're moving around produces energy. So there's, and if they go really fast, they produce a shock wave. The shock wave itself is used to produce energy, used to produce fusion. The shock wave can produce fusion. So they're an engine, and the engine produces this compression, and the compression just produces fusion. And then they have essentially infinite energy. So each one of those balls of plasma can produce gigawatts of electrical energy. Gigawatts. You're looking at a completely new paradigm of energy production in those plasma balls. So the craziest part is, this is the thing that I'm really struggling with. Those plasma balls, I can trace back the origin of the plasma balls to about 1989. Ironically, the same time as cold fusion. 1989. And that being said, they are free energy. They literally are free energy. They are exact type of free energy that I've been talking about. They're cold fusion. They're everything that you would imagine. They're just not doing it at all in a conventional way that I would have ever expected in a million years. Even up until a few weeks ago, I wouldn't have expected this. It's a weird system that takes the shock wave, like takes the air, inbound air, and sucks energy from it and produces a compression within the plasma itself to produce fusion and electrical energy. And just like the letter to me said, a slightly different change to the structure of the design produces a free energy plasma ball, as opposed to the ones that we're looking at, which are for propulsion mechanisms. And they can take that excess onboard energy, and then they can teleport things with it. They can make gravity, super powerful free electron lasers with it.
This is a submission sent to us the 8th of January of 2024. It's a letter to an Ashton Forbes telling a new story of what happened to Malaysian Airlines MH370 that disappeared back in 2014. And as always, don't trust what you read on the news. Trust your own capability to see the world for what it really is. Here we go.
I work or have worked at a military base in the Maldives, and I know exactly what happened to Malaysian Airlines MH370. This is also a letter to Ashton Forbes. You are not wrong, and what you do are much bigger than you even can imagine. Don't stop what you are doing. I won't tell anything about myself more than that I currently or in the past has spent time at a military base in the Maldives. That I have done this type of work since I joined the military when I was young, and that was many decades ago. Still in the game, but the years are starting to get to me. I write this because I want the world to know that most of the trouble on Earth are created for political reasons. United States, or at least a covert administrative elite of the U.S., has, at will, complete control, and this has been true since the 60s. Flight MH370 arrived at our base, by our hand, at 1856 UTC after we picked it up, mid-air, outside the island of Great Nicobar. Just one of many, many things we do. We can pick up anything, anywhere, and deliver it in an instant, like a magic FedEx. Some facts about why it happened. MH370 had defectors on board. They were running to China with American technology. They are Chinese by blood and had gotten themselves into a situation with the Chinese regime who got them to choose to defect. The whole play, everything, and I mean everything about it, was a political play to show the Chinese who's their daddy. That's us. Some facts about how it happened. All passengers are dead, all but the handful of deflectors. The plane did not crash. The plane was on fire, we know because we started it. The plane was picked up by us, on fire, mid-air, right in front of the Chinese. The Chinese regime knows exactly what happened, and that was the whole point of the operation. Okay, this is what I want to share with you. As I said, I have been doing this for a long time. I know the technology and have been a part of hundreds of operations. So let's start with the tech. The foundation is not superconductivity. Superconductivity is a product of the technology. We have had this since the 1960s, and from that first day we have used it to make sure that no one else can have it. The big breakthrough to apply the tech as we do today came in the beginning of the 2000s with quantum computers, and by this, the paradigm for AI technology. What we had to do programmatically before, we now can do with something akin to machine intuition. This lets us operate in fast-moving environments where event-based logic in linear programming was very limited. As I said, what you have found is not the technology itself, it's just one of many derivatives of the technology. I encourage you to keep on with what you are doing, but you should also be aware that there is a deeper layer that you could focus on instead of the Miami aliens that I see you have been posting about. I will give you some pointers for this at the end of this letter. The products or application you are now working on is correctly based on superconductivity. The number of orbs you've been speculating about is correct. The fourth orb decides where the object ends up. The technology is based on structures, simple and beautiful structures that lets us use the unlimited power that is everywhere, and step outside what I would like to describe as perceived reality. The structure that is used for what you are looking at is a metastructure that creates a low complexity and relative low energy phase transition. The beauty of this technology lies in its elegance and simplicity. The structures are inherently stable and self-regulating, and the earlier challenges to conduct operations were 100% based on the limits of man. With the same technology, just a slightly altered monostructure gives us an infinite power generator that without maintenance can run forever. Combine structures to a meta-product again, and you have the propulsion for a transmedium object moving faster than light. It's the definition of magic. There are endless applications, and the truth is that it would change the world in an instant. But that won't happen. I bet yourself, or at least most of your audience, have heard a version of the story that the aliens are here and they want to bless us with new clean and revolutionary technology, but we are a too young and rowdy civilization and would not be able to be responsible enough with the gifts from them. That's probably made up, but that is at the same time completely true. It's just not aliens saying this. It's us again. The technology is infinite in its power, and if two rivaling parties had access to it, this world wouldn't last a day. The same technology, with a combination of monostructures, makes a terrifying weapon that turns any matter into dust, and that dust turns into air. It does not matter if the object is a small bird or an aircraft carrier. It cannot be stopped. It does not miss, and when the object has been hit, the phasing cannot be stopped. Okay, so back to MH370. We knew about the deflectors as soon as they made their decision. Well before that, but then they weren't deflectors. Anyway, we knew when, how, and why back in December, and as we do, we made it into politics. We let them go. We took them back and sent the Chinese a clear message of who is in control. And we did this with a brilliantly produced show that is fit for a Hollywood production.
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. And the world is our stage.
Any good movie has fire, desperation, regret, and drama. And every movie villain should see their plan fall apart. And in really good movies, just when the villain has accepted that the plan has failed, the heroes of the movie steps in and makes it worse. This is what happened. As soon as we knew what plane was the last leg of their journey, we planned and delivered, so the plane was loaded up with lithium-ion batteries, built by us for this occasion. Lithium-ion batteries cannot be put out, has a predictable burn rate, and we made sure that the volume was just right for a long burn that would allow for a full-length show. The Chinese were following the plane since it was on the tarmac and got to see their most close-to-success operation go up in flames. And just as all hope was lost, We made it worse. Right in front of their eyes, 2 hours and 13 minutes in, they saw the plane get phased out of there by the same technology they were trying to get access to. And 5 days later, the Chinese officially made a gesture of submissiveness by publishing a frame from the satellite of the phase moment via the State Administration for Science. The publishing was talked about in American newspapers as a possible debris field. But when you know what you are looking at, it's clear what the frame shows. The aftermath. During the 5 days after the show, the Chinese found out about the batteries, that we both made and placed them on the plane. They accepted that we have been playing with them the whole time and at the same time could accept that the people they had convinced to deflect did what they wanted. It was us that stopped them. The deflectors had a good corrective experience when it comes to staying loyal and were back on the job as usual, but with a new understanding both of their importance and the consequences of their actions. What was nothing more than another Friday at the office for the administrative elite, 200 people had the most confusing death experience you could imagine. 1,500 people lived a tragedy, losing family members in a mystery, and 10,000s spent months searching and millions speculating for years. Then in 2014, military footage of the event got published on YouTube. Not our problem. The person responsible for the leak was identified and taken care of. Not by us, not our problem. Then came you. Hi, Ashton. Impressive. This is what I want to leave you with. There was a guest on the Joe Rogan podcast that was talking about sacred geometry and some new technology his friends had discovered on some island somewhere. He did record another episode, but it never been published. Doesn't the wording sacred geometry remind you of something? If you choose to spend time on this, which I think you should instead of mall aliens, keep in mind that your case is one product of the technology. What happens on the other island, you will understand this if you pursue it, is another more rudimentary product. What if those in combination could lead you on the right path to the actual technology? The gray-bearded man is the key, and he probably has no idea that he is. Finally, I want to say this. How do you defeat someone who can turn skyscrapers to dust, completely erase whole neighborhoods in an afternoon, and steal a burning Boeing 777 midair? Someone who, when needed, has the complete control of all media and crafts the perception of events and has most of humanity eating from its hands. After almost a full life in their service, I think I know the answer. You talk about them, and you don't stop talking.
It all goes back to nuclear weapons. That plane disappearing right there goes back to nuclear weaponry. We are literally looking at the product of the evolution of the H-bomb and fusion research. It got to the point where they were creating implosive effects where it got so powerful, they were just teleporting stuff. Like, we're actually broaching the realm of what the conspiracy theorists were thinking that CERN was doing with their super powerful particle accelerator. And after reading, I'm only like 30 or 40 pages into Friedwart-Winterberg's Principles of Thermonuclear Explosions, and I'm 100% sure already that they have been classifying this, keeping this secret for over 50 years, maybe closer to 70. The book from Friedwart-Winterberg is from 1981. And he's saying in there in the beginning of the book, they classified inertial electrostatic confined fusion. IEC fusion? IEC fusion is the cold fusion that we have been saying George Miley is working on, that we had, that Eric W. Davis connected to the EVOs and extracting energy from the vacuum. That connects it to Ken's shoulders. That's it. It's literally like, look at it like this. We found out they were hiding cold fusion and that it's something called IEC fusion, which is electrostatic. The universe is electric. And then I read a book from 1981 by Friedwart-Winterberg, one of the authors of the DIRDs. And right in there in the first introduction, it says they're hiding inertial electrostatic confined fusion. Hiding it publicly, by the way. Hiding it publicly, as in the information is there. Nobody reads it. Nobody understands it. Exactly the way that we've been saying. I'm 100% sure inertial electrostatic confined fusion, they've been fucking hiding it from us, and we are going to steal that shit back. Chat, it's time to crash out. Lockheed, DOE, Air Force, oh, I've had enough. I'm not coming back for half of it. I'm coming back for everything. Because I'm not just coming back for the teleportation. I'm coming back for all of it. Free energy, gravity manipulation, the teleportation, everything you guys are hiding. If you're hiding cloning ability, I'm going to take some of that too. We're going to take all that technology and we're going to give it back to the people who paid for it. The beta is the magnetic field confinement capabilities. In fact, the video I watched about helium fusion, the one that Peter Thiel and Sam Altman are invested in, they also brag about their high beta in their reverse field configuration. And this is why people had suspected that Lockheed Martin was using a reverse field configuration.
Of the magnetic field pressure. We use all of its potential. And that means we can make our devices 10 times smaller.
Unlimited fuel range, unlimited presumably energy is what that means as well. We can make it 10 times smaller than a normal fusion reactor. We have the beta values that are 10 times higher. Efficiency levels that are practically, what did they say, 2,000 times higher. They were bragging about their efficiency being 2,000 times better than the public was.
The small is the reason we can do this quickly. It doesn't take 5 years to design it. It takes 3 months. We can design it, build it, test it in under a year.
Yeah, they're also bragging about the production cycle. They're like, we can produce it in under a year. We can design it in a few months. We can just get you a custom compact fusion reactor. Boom. We've got it all figured out, ready to go.
We think we can get to a prototype in 5 years. Every time you do plasma physics, you learn something new. And that's why this is a high-risk, high-payoff endeavor. Our increasing mission is to enhance global security, and this is how we do that in the energy realm. We take it all the way. So no emissions, safe operation, proliferation-free. That means we can ship it to the whole world with a good conscience.
There ain't no way that this was ever going to be allowed to have happen. This guy's like, hey, we got unlimited energy. We can ship it to the whole world. We found an easy way to produce it. Uncle Sam stepped in and said, you know what? Invention Secrecy Act, sorry. What I am sure here is that this video, which is also guys from like 10 years ago or something like that, this video is basically like people just not knowing what the hell this guy was talking about. And now in 2025, anybody that knows fusion listens to what this guy's saying right now. They're going to have one of two responses. One, holy shit, Lockheed Martin has a compact fusion reactor and they've had it for a long time. Or two, they're going to say, no, they're just making that all up. They were just lying. And this video, this is what shows the disconnect. The words coming out of this guy's mouth that he's just bragging about what they can do with their compact fusion reactor, because they just don't show it publicly, because they don't care about Nobel Prizes or whatever, because they only care about corporate greed and secrecy, that's the reason why it doesn't come out. The NPC, CNN brain people go, well, they didn't show it to me. They only bragged about, yeah, well, they're selling it to like the Navy and the Air Force.
10 years, we have great military vehicles. 20 years, we have clean power for the world. This isn't online by 2100. This is online by the time I can't even retire after we finish this. I still have to find another job after this is done.
We never forget who we're working for. Lockheed Martin skunk work. Engineers, scientists had figured this stuff out. They knew there was an ether of energy. They knew we were in a medium. We just kind of got brainwashed into thinking that we're not. They spread this lie about space being an empty vacuum knowingly debunking the idea of the ether so that we wouldn't find out about fusion and fusion bombs and what these things can do, bending space and time. They tried to hold us back because I could see a scenario where I would want to do that.
What he was doing was he was enclosed, the little knobs sticking off the ball were particle accelerators. And they were injecting particles at a central point, which he then encapsulated within a cathode and an anode. So he was using virtual electrodes in some form or fashion. If you read the patents, he was using these virtual electrodes as his containment. Philo Farnsworth and these little devices drop off the radar screen from that point on. You never hear about Philo Farnsworth again, much less about these little patents that are there in the record. You can go look at them. 4 decades later, out comes Lockheed Martin with a thing that looks like it's based on Philo Farnsworth's patents. So are they researching on-neutronic fusion? You betcha they are. Of course they are. Why? Because if they can make it work, you can have a hydrogen bomb without the necessity for an A-bomb.
What the hell is that? That's what everyone wants to know. What the hell is a fusion bomb that has no fission component? What does that do? Is it the opposite of an explosion? What's the opposite of an explosion? Oh, an implosion. And we might be looking at some kind of aneutronic fusion bomb right there. This video that I just pulled out, I think you're going to enjoy this.
Or form. So so when we showed that mechanism, kid was showing, was like, oh my God, that looks like mitochondria.
It's funny because they literally, the two ways to stabilize plasma I saw, one is axial rotation, the other one is a helical rotation. Helical meaning DNA, right? A spiral. And if you play this video that I just pulled out, I think you're going to enjoy this. What does plasma do in outer space in 0G if you just put some dust into it so that you give it some substance and they just let the plasma do its own thing? It forms structures. It begins to naturally form structures in 0G. Can you pull up this video here? I think it'll be a fun one to watch because it's going to connect to those ideas that you're talking about. I'm just going to mute it because it might be a copyright thing or whatever. I think the music's fine. But you can see here, look at the plasma form these structures. You can even see these tendrils being formed from it. So why is this important? Because we're seeing these electrostatic forces. We're seeing those nuclear forces. That's why it's doing this. So whatever it's structuring into, it has to be because of these forces. One of the cool things they're going to show here in a second is that a void just naturally forms. Like just a black circle void forms where the plasma just goes all around it. It almost looks like a black hole. So this is a Russian experiment that these guys were testing. That's why we've got the subtitles here. And so, yeah, because of their repulsion and attraction, they form this lattice structure. Look at that lattice structure right there. You can see the structure basically being formed from it. And then they would see this empty void appear in the middle of the lattice structure. Look at that void. How crazy is that? That's just in 0G. Plasma floating around in 0G. A natural void just forms. Look at that. That's insane. But the best part, it's coming up here in a second, is that the plasma also doesn't just organize like this, where it almost looks like a squid or something creepy. It also forms to explain galaxies. And it also will form to explain, there's your galaxy right there. Look at that. Look at how fast the stars at the edges, or these are just little particles of dust. But this explains, like, we don't need dark matter. There's your answer right there. The edges are spinning almost as fast as the center because it's just plasma in space. And then the last part is the DNA. The plasma also forms double helix structures naturally in outer space as well. So it goes to show that these double helix structures must be a natural phenomenon. Look at that. Yeah. This is the craziest to me, looking at that. Like, that looks just like a double helix. So that's one of my favorite videos on plasma when I'm trying to get people involved. Be like, why is plasma cool? It's like, have you seen what it does in outer space when it's just floating around freely? Pretty cool.
It almost gives a nod to vortex math and some of those concepts of 369. And then you look at secret societies and how they kind of manipulate their sigils and what have you. And when you look at these sigils almost manipulate what formations are made in biological structure. And I think biological structures, yes, they are intelligent themselves, but I think they are following, what is it? Nature follows the path of ease, right? Pick the most complicated. It's not a female. It's not going to pick the most complicated, anything. It's going to follow the path of least resistance. And I think that is what we're seeing, whether it is with the Fibonacci sequence or the golden ratio or plasma forming into helical structures. It's basically showing you what the plasma itself is doing.
Wyona Riders, 2 videos, Edward C. Lynn in jail, classified, Gorgon Stare deleted from SNC's website, plane on fire, Freescale employees, etc. I mean, no evidence, no credible evidence. I mean, I think we've nailed it. I mean, how much more? You couldn't even expect, realistically, to expect what I've already provided from evidence. I've said who the leaker is. I found the leaker of the videos. If he wasn't the leaker of the videos, the very first thing the debunkers in the government would have done, they would have found Edward Lynn and they would have had him making statements saying that he's not the leaker of the videos. That's the very first thing they would have done. You can always tell when we're correct because all the debunkers avoid those topics. Like when we were correct about Gorgon Stare, they all go silent about Gorgon Stare. When we were correct about the fire, they all go silent about the fire. When we were correct about Edward Lynn, they all go silent about Edward Lynn. Every single time. All these things are like trivial to confirm. Trivial to confirm. Talk to Catherine T. Talk to somebody in the Air Force. Talk to Edward Lynn. Talk to his lawyer. Nope. Nobody wants to do any of these things. Nobody wants to confirm any of the verifiable information I've given. I swear we live in a clown world. We live in a clown world. I've done all the work. I've got absolute proof on a silver platter. And I've said all you have to do is the minimum amount of journalistic effort. I've done all the hard work for you. All you have to do is find anybody in the Air Force, literally anyone in the Air Force that's ever seen Gorgon Stare, and they'll confirm it. Nope, not going to do that. Not going to do that. Why? Why not? Just don't want to. What? It might change the world forever. It might give us free energy forever. It might give us teleportation forever. You're not going to just talk to somebody. It's a 5-minute phone call. It's a 5-minute phone call. Nope. You're not just going to reach out to the guy that I said leaked the videos. I said, this guy leaked the videos. Just go talk to him. Nope. Not going to do that either. I swear, like, when people wonder why do they get backlash, this is why they get backlash. The evidence is overwhelming, and just plugging your ears and closing your eyes and pretending like it doesn't exist, that's mental illness. You are mentally ill if you can't rationalize how these videos are obviously real. They're obviously real. There's no such thing as fake hoax military videos. There's no such thing as that. Let me repeat this again. There's no such thing as fake hoax military videos. Planes don't crash without leaving a debris field. That's not a thing that happens. Nobody could have known that we would never find the plane to make those videos. And there's no such thing as fake color FLIR footage. There's no such thing as that. The reason why there's no such thing as fake color FLIR video is because no one knew it existed before this. No one even knew it existed before this investigation. One of the first things debunkers said is there's no such thing as color FLIR. Turns out there is. The amount of mental gymnastics that people have to go through to try to claim the videos are fake is beyond anything I can even imagine.